Okay, just on a minute early or 2 minutes early just to give people a chance to roll on in. Today's lesson is the nuts and bolts of seduction. It's going to be a good one. Damn right it's going to be. Stoic. Peace, brother. Thanks for joining. Yeah. So, seduction occurs in the mind. It's something that it's completely psychological. If you haven't figured that much out yet, it's her mind that is seduced, and it's not so much you seducing her mind as her finding reasons to seduce herself, and using you as inspiration to do so. That's more of what happens typically. See, a woman has an experience in her mind. They all have this experience of what should happen, right? And so, what seduction is kind of you convincing her, you kind of enticing her to start running that process of the perfect way it goes down, and kind of enticing her to want to do that with you. So she creates the whole story. That's why, well, plausible deniability is always a thing. See, women, they understand this. But it's like the reason that a good seduction and a way to prolong a nice seduction is plausible deniability. So never do anything that you can't take back. They can't just be explained away, right? Like you might just like stick your foot out a little further than usual and start pointing it towards her, right? But I could just be sticking my foot out there. See, those are the moves she'll make, and we're gonna get into that. But it's between the two of you, those signals and those gestures back and forth are what build the seduction. If Race War, thanks, brother. Thanks for coming in. And it's kind of what happens. It's gestures and signals. She never does anything that she can't take back. You never do anything that you could be called out on either, right? It's like, because you want her, especially if she's like, because a lot of women are looking for a reason to shame a man for, like I was walking through the park a few weeks ago, and there was two women sitting there, and I looked over. I was already kind of smiling, but I looked over and I smiled, and someone was like, "You were not interested, buddy." And I turned back over here, pretended I wasn't even listening at all, and just continued to walk. Thanks, brother. Thanks, man. Yeah, so I continued to walk without even turning back. I didn't address her. I didn't confront her. I didn't do nothing. I just like pretend I didn't even hear her and continued. She was with somebody, and that person, so she goes out like that. Like I knew she was talking to me, but she didn't. I pretended like I didn't, and it was easy enough because I hadn't put myself out so far as to be like I'm interested. I just walked through the park smiling. I looked over and seen some women there. So these kind of things, it's good because it's like ammo in case something goes wrong. You know what I mean? She happens to be a feminist or whatever. It's like you're only in the beginning. All you're trying to do is get enough attention to begin the seduction, right? So by small chunking it, right? There's like big chunk, right? It's like sometimes we all have this big. A lot of men, we think in this macro kind of perspective, in a way of things of being like, boom, this big event and this happens as a macro. For whatever reason, women very much think more small chunk as well, and it's a lot easier if you could small chunk a seduction. Because when you look at it and it's big, like the woman I seen in the liquor store yesterday, gorgeous woman. in order to, like, if you want to macro chunk that, if I were to look at her and go, oh, how do I take her to bed? That would not happen, right? To even to look at it is like, okay, this woman, it's like you look at her and your dick gets hard. How do I take her and how do I fucking it? You know what I mean? How do I fuck her? That's impossible. It's the wrong question. But if you take it down, you small chunk it, say, okay, how do I get her to notice me? That's easy enough to do. So if you have a process, then you follow. You have a process, and you can begin each step of the way. So I might just be looking over and smiling. Whoa. Oh, I just smile at people, man. It's just who I am, right? But it's just like you got. No, it's something too. Things should not be out of character. So if you're like, oh, from 1 minute you're just like this completely serious guy, and you're, you know, showing everybody how tough you are or your bad attitude all the time, to go from that to like smiling over at her, it's fucking weird, and you know what I mean? It's not. So depending, you know what I mean? So, but depending on who you are, your entire seduction should be within what you would generally do anyway, right? Putting on, that's why putting on fronts is bad, because people see through them. But if you are a person who's generally more serious, you're you know, I mean, you just look over at her. You know, we're gonna go over hot and cold here, but you can just like look over at her, or you can proximity. You can get a little closer. There's things you can do to leave a subtle signal that nobody else around would see, in order to show her that you have some interest in her. And then allow her to reciprocate that. If she doesn't reciprocate it, you go cold, right? This is a simple process of how seduction occurs. It's simple. It's a two-person communication. So the one person is like, you are doing something, and then you're waiting for a response. And you know what I mean? And what you do is supposed to, it should entice her, or you know what I mean, to bring her into, okay, just give me a little bit more of a signal, and then you can give a little bit more of a signal back to her. She gives a little bit more of a signal back to you, right? It seems complex, but it's not. That's really what happens within an entire seduction, is that's the kind of method that you're taking towards getting her to want to be with you, right? Getting her to want to be with you, right? So, say, let's take the liquor store lady yesterday. I noticed her. I looked at her. My look already is one where people generally notice me, but like I saw her little legs, and then I was like, you know, I was interested, so I just looked at her, just kind of like looked at her face, tried to look at her face, whatever. You know, when she turned around, I looked into her eyes, I looked at her eyes, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like I'm looking, right? That's you know. Like, she's gonna notice the guy behind her, right? If she wasn't giving me that, I would just turn my back completely on her and start looking the other way. You know what I mean? For a bit, you know, take a look back in my lineup spot, and I would ignore her. My eyes would not touch her. It's like you have an imaginary wall. It's like I'd bring my eyes here and I'd look over her head. I would look anywhere else except for at her. I would completely deny her my eye contact, but then I'd keep my eye enough in the periphery that I could see if she looked at me. That's how I would get her to look at me if looking at her wasn't going to do it, right? If she was giving me the signal. But if she was giving me that signal that she was purposefully not looking at me, or purposefully not giving me attention, I oftentimes, generally, I'll take that as being she's married. She doesn't want to get into this interaction. And it's not fair for, you know what I mean? Because I try to honor people's commitments and their values and family. And if a woman is giving me indications that she might be in a relationship, I step away. I don't bother. I don't, you know, I mean, I take the Bible seriously in that regard, because I don't think it's cool. I don't need to be flirting with married women. I don't need to be trying to fucking take some guy's wife off of him and causing myself an issue there. I've got way too many options. I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't. It's not cool with me. But I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for. Well, I'm gonna have to breed, right? For me, is I'm only here for a little while. I'm in this world. I want to breed and have women that are okay sharing me, right? Like I have like a few breeding partners, and more of a natural type family structure. But the women, you know, at that point, they're going to have to first off be accepting of other women, and my position in the relationship, her position in the relationship. I've got a high list of demands. They don't start off like that in the beginning, but I don't bend on them. Like, you ain't ever going to be the only one for me. You can't be. I feel that, I don't know. I just don't think that's the way I want to do it. You know what I mean? I want to have multiple women, and you know, I reject the idea of this fucking. You know, I believe in nature. I'm more of a natural person. I look at chimpanzees and the structure of what they got going on, and I think that you know, we came from a similar tribal structure, and it's more of a natural way for us to be. Like, we are a natural animal, and we should be in that. We should be in alignment with that, with nature, right? Seduction occurs in the mind. Seduction and attraction could be a physical thing, but seduction is purely psychological. It's a dance, and it's psychological. It's a psychological game. That's why you call it game. And anyone can become a master at this game. Anyone. It does not matter who you are. Anyone can become a seducer. A woman can become any woman can learn the game, because it happens on a subconscious level. And so it's outside the person's conscious awareness. So you may not be the person. You see, what is seductive, it's not being the best looking guy, the most beautiful person in the world, you know, and just fucking by your fucking very looks is alone, and your physical body is enough that it's fucking, you're overwhelming her to the point where she just can't control herself. That's not seduction. That's not what it is. Seduction is somebody, I don't know, have you ever been charmed by a fat lady, and it was like, holy fuck, you know, like, this lady's like, there's something about her type of thing? That's seduction. It's like, it's not somebody you would go for. That's why, well, see, it works. That's why it works. Especially for guys like me running around with broken teeth. Like, I got broken teeth, man. Like, I live in a room in some guy's house. Like, I'm not talking dating here at all. This is seduction, which is different. Seduction is, she falls in love with you. She does it herself, based on what you're giving her as information to process. It's unconscious. It's not really fair, let's say, but it's what she's looking for. Like, okay, it's not fair to seduce somebody, and it probably isn't, because they don't really have a choice in it. Like, they're going to want you, because you're giving them what it is they want. Like, it's a two-person dance. You have to be on your side of it too. Like, the entire time, you got to keep up your end of the seduction. So it's not like, but yeah, you're not somebody they would choose. Believe me, it's not about being somebody the person would choose. Probably not. Being unattractive or slightly unattractive or less attractive is probably an advantage. To be honest, I mean, you can still produce the same effects. All right, so let's get into it. Sexy behaviors come from, okay, so section is about subcommunication. Okay, so subcommunication, these are what are sexy behaviors. So behaviors that communicate subconsciously to the other person. They're things that are underneath. So the unconscious mind is seeing it and processing it. Like how I talk about emotional contagion. This is all subcommunication. It's subtle little gestures back and forth, like, hey, I like you. But they're not being processed by the conscious mind. They're more being processed by the unconscious. And what you're looking for is unconscious signals back with the person. Subcommunication, subconscious signals. So things that are occurring in their unconscious. So what are they feeling? Because their gestures and their subcommunications will be displaying what they're feeling. It won't be displaying so much what they want you to see or to think or to believe. It'll be more the things they can't help, right? I'm going to be right back. Okay, so one subcommunication is you might stick your foot out towards her, right? If you're like standing somewhere, you might stick your foot out to get, and your foot's getting a little closer to her energy field. If she kind of, you see a few minutes later, she's got her foot sticking out towards you. You know what I mean? It's like, now it maybe you might bring your foot in even a little more closer. Now find a way to even get a little closer, or find a way to up the ante. Try to get your hand a little closer. Try to get yourself a little closer, right? Things like that, and then you stop and wait for her. And if she comes a little closer towards you, you know it's on. That's hot and cold, right? It's like you go a little hot, wait, stop, and wait for her reaction. She gives you the right response, which is coming a little closer. Now you're rewarding her with even more hot. So you bring it a little, you know what I mean? You up the ante just a little tiny bit more. It's like a fucking, like a poker game. You're just like upping your ante, upping your ante, upping your ante. That's why they call it game, because it is. You just keep upping it. So you start off and you're just like, you might look at her and look away. And like a moment later, you're looking at her and you hold it a little longer. Maybe this time you're like, give her one of these. Now, you know what I mean? You don't think of it like that. Guys don't think of seduction in these terms. They think of like, walking up and, hey, I'm whoever, like impressing her to the point where she wants to give you her phone number. I don't, like, for me, I don't do that. It's not about, I wouldn't even ever ask a girl for her phone number. I wouldn't do it. Like, I just wouldn't do it. Like, it wouldn't happen. Like, I mean, I might. I guess. But, like, I don't know. I don't even usually for the most part, I don't even really talk to a woman. Like, I don't really say anything. I just kind of do my behavior dance back and forth with her, play in the energy, and then, like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, like, I might see you around, but I'll see another girl today that's gonna like me and that I could play that game with again. And, like, I know that, like, I don't know, like, I know they'll fuck me if I want to have sex. Like, any woman will have sex with me. Like, you know what I mean? I know that. So I'm not, like, trying for that, like, at all. I'm more or less, I'm seeing, like, I want to see how far a woman will go. Because it's like, how far will she go to please me? Or to, you know what I mean? To be, like, positive, a positive or whatever. Like, how dedicated is she, type of thing, right? Like, if a woman's, like, really fucking working hard, and I can see, like, you know, she's willing to fucking put in the work, and, you know, I would go up and talk to her, 100%. That's why, like, but I don't know. There are some women I can still see it. Sometimes I will. I don't know, man. My sexual energy is very important to me, so I'm not trying to fucking spill it. Like, I'm not trying to give somebody my sexual energy just to have sex. You know what I mean? I don't come from that perspective, so it's not. So most of the guys watching this are not going to really understand what it is. You know what I mean? They're going to understand that. But for me, it's like, okay, can I have children with this person? Right? Can I build something with them? Are they dedicated? Are they going to be on my team? You know? Can I trust them? For me, there's got to be a lot of trust. There's got to be a lot of trust. Because, like, I mean, I'm getting older. I'm not fucking, you know, I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm not fucking in my 20s. Like, you know, I've already kind of did that, and I shouldn't have did that. Today, it's like, okay, well, I want something solid, but also something very unconventional too. Like, I'm not looking to just marry one woman. I want to, you know, I'm going to be polygamous. So I'm going to have several women, and that needs to be okay. And if it's not okay, like, you know, us having a relationship's going to be over. Like, I'll just be single. I'm not looking to have sex right away. Sometimes, I mean, it may happen, because, I mean, there's sometimes I get pretty horny. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it could, conceivably, it could happen where, you know, out of nowhere, I'm just, like, having sex with somebody, and there hasn't been, you know, preparation ahead of time. legally, I don't have a choice. I don't have a say whether or not she would keep the kid if there was gonna be one, or any of that. But then again, but if I'm having sex with a woman, I'm pretty sure, like, by the time we're done she's gonna be willing to do anything I ask her to do. There's nothing she's not gonna do for me, you know. Like, you know, that's about it. Like, there's not much, you know, once I've had sex with a woman, I don't think there's much she's gonna that she wouldn't be willing to do. So where do sexist behaviors come from? They come from your attitude, right? How you see yourself in relation to her, how you see yourself in the world. You know, how do you view yourself? Who do you view yourself to be? If you view yourself to be the prize, if you feel that you are the prize, and that you're looking for a very specific type of woman, or you're looking for very specific qualities, you're displaying that. But yeah, everything you do, and what you say, the phrases you use, the language you use, everything you do, all your behaviors come from your attitudes, your beliefs, and your perceptions. Your beliefs, you know, how you see things. Sexy behaviors are simply, you know, like standing tall, standing like a person who feels that they're good enough, you know. When you feel unconscious or self-conscious, that's saying something about how you see yourself. And how you see yourself is going to determine a lot of who you actually are in the world. And so if you stand like a person who views themselves highly, other people will automatically assume, like, hey, well, you know, you've had a life experience that's led to you viewing yourself highly. You're probably a person that has some value. People will tend towards you more, right? Because you're displaying that you're a person that you're displaying that you're of value, that you view yourself as somebody who has value, yeah, and it's just. Yeah, so it's in your attitudes and your behaviors. So if you view yourself, and that all comes from the things you say to yourself inside your head, right? So if you're always telling yourself good things about yourself, you talk to yourself very positively, you will have, you begin to see yourself in a more positive light, and when you see yourself in a more positive light, it is translated, or it's transmitted, it's communicated through your behaviors to everybody else around you. That's why, you know, seduction and being a person who's able to seduce somebody really comes down to your own internal, how you see yourself and your behaviors. Micro behaviors. Proximity. So getting closer to her than is necessary. Not to the point where you're creeping her out. But let's say, you know, or say, you know, you're standing somewhere and you're like 3 feet away from her. And you stick your foot out. So now your foot's like 2 feet away from her. That's giving her a bit of proximity. Or you just shuffle and you move a couple inches closer. Dick at her. She's feeling it. I don't know why, man. It's a weird thing in the world, man. But your sexual energy, and the longer you go without ejaculating, the bigger your energetic dick becomes. And that's the truth. Energetic dick, it fucking touches them, man. But so, see, these are things a lot of men don't understand. They don't get these. You know, that it's all about how bad does she want to fuck you, you know, how bad does she want to fuck you, how does she feel about you, You know, it's not about like, oh, I love you so much. It's not about how you feel about her. It's how she feels about you that matters, and it's how bad she wants to fuck you. It's how you make her feel that counts. That's what's seductive. It doesn't matter how you feel. It's about how she. It's about her, how much she wants you to feel a certain way towards her, and her trying to get that from you, right? And keeping her wanting that too, right? Trying to keep her in that position of always wanting, always trying, in a position of always trying for you, because it's the principle of investment. We value what we invest in. Okay, so when I see, it's like in a sale, and you can ask somebody to do, ask somebody for a glass of water. I gotta like you a certain amount to get you that glass of water, right? So it's like, the more we do for, they did a bunch of studies. I don't even, social animal, Elliot Aronson, the social animal. If you want to read it, John Elliot Aronson, I think. Oh, David Elliot Aronson. So anyway, or Elliot Aronson. Anyway, his book's called Social Animal. There's a study in there. They proved it that we like people. The more we do for somebody, the more we tend to like them. So the more the act of doing something makes us like the person more. So we're investing, and so you're trying to always up that investment until you've got her, right? So the more you can be in her mind, the more you can get her thinking, oh, I wonder if he likes me. I think he likes me, but she's unsure, and so she wants another signal. The more you have her putting in investing her energy into the interaction and into the seduction, the more she's gonna value this seduction. Facial expression. So your facial expression is another micro behavior. It's like when you look at her. Looking at her is one thing. You look at her. What does your eyes say? What does your face say when you land on her? Is it feeling like I'm scared inside, like, oh, I don't know what to do? Or you have a face on like, oh, wow, I like you. Look at that. It just, if my face is expression, I look at a woman and just like, wow, like, here we are, like, hi, I'm noticing you too, like, hi, it's like, hi, you're like, and like, surprise, like, oh, nice, like a nice surprise, like, oh, nice surprise, I got a beautiful woman looking at me. You know what I mean? That's exactly what's going on in my head. Like, oh, it's just a feeling of like, oh, nice surprise. Like, oh, nice. It feels good. It's enjoyable on the eyes. And you're looking at her, and she notices that you're enjoying looking at her, so she starts going, and nobody knows either, so it's a secret too, right? Like, you're standing in line somewhere, and you're just looking at her, she's looking at you, and you're just like, nobody else sees that shit. Like, they don't see what's actually going on. Body language, what's your body language saying? Open body language is it's like, this is your energetic warmth, is your body and your torso. So the more you put in front of yourself, the less of that there is. Sometimes you might, like me, if I have my hands in front of me, it's usually purposefully. I won't cross them. I won't do a fig leaf, and I don't do this either. But I might have my hands together. Sometimes, you could just be you could rub your hands. It's like this sensual rub, though. It's like, and you're looking at her. Like, this is a good move. It's a good move because it now shows like that you're wanting, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a representation of you and her, right? It's a good gesture sometimes that works, right? Sometimes I'm just, but your body language, what's your body language saying, right? We are wherever, like if you ever see somebody sticking out a foot, like you'll notice this when we point our foot at whatever, we point our feet at whatever we're paying attention to. So notice her feet. Are her feet pointing towards you? Because if they are, she's paying attention to you. You're on her mind, no matter where the rest of her body is. And sometimes it's like, you'll see them and they'll just be like sticking a foot way out over this way, pointing their foot at you, and they're like, their body's completely the other way. And it's like, I see this shit. But it all tells you something. So anything her body's doing, you're reading that. Because her body is telling you how she feels about you, how she feels about the interaction, everything. It's her body language. It's you know what I mean? How else do you seduce somebody from across the room? You're not going to yell over, "Hey, I think you're beautiful." Some guys actually would do that. Oh my God. Right? It's always got to be, like, the more subtle it is, the more like under the radar, the more the more she feels that. Movement. We whatever is moving in our environment, movement in our environment catches our attention. So if you're like just the more animated you can be, just being animated. She's you know what I mean, if you're naturally a person who moves more, you're gonna get more attention. You know, that's why you gotta be comfortable having attention on you. Because in order to get her attention, for me, well, if you really are that good looking, if you're like 6'2", you're fucking, you know, you go to the gym and you're like super good looking, yeah, you don't really need to move much to get her attention. If you're 5'9", you might have some other tricks. You might have to, you know, you might have to do a couple of tricks. You know, you might have to have some techniques just to gain that attention. You can't seduce somebody who hasn't noticed you. That's the truth. And sometimes it's simply, you know, there's a reason why women like celebrities. They get crushes on celebrities. And so if you can produce that effect, then she'll get crushes on you. And a lot of it can be just, you know, the way you look, you know, look different than other people. We notice things that are different, right? You're not necessarily trying to get her pussy wet with the way you look. It's just a way to get her attention. It's just, or, you know, the movement, your body movements and such aren't meant to like arouse her. That comes after, right? So like I said, we take it as a step. You know, we small chunk the entire seduction into a process, right? So you're you know, everything you have, your toolbox of what you have in a seduction is your micro behaviors: proximity, body language, facial expressions, movement, feet pointing, hair touching, and primming. You know, anytime you're just like, might look at her and you just start like straightening out your clothes a little bit, she notices that. If you see her doing that, she knows you know that she's primming herself, she's grooming herself, or wanting to look good for you. Or you see her, she just takes her hand and does this with her hair, or you do it with yours. You might just be like, oh wow, you know, whatever you're doing. But anything you're doing that's like meant to adjust your look, you do it like, don't do it so obvious, just kind of like, because it's, you know, so, you know, but you're a little bit of any kind of showing that you're primming shows her unconsciously that you like her. It's a signal. She processes the signal. She likes it. It's a good, you know what I mean? It's seductive. Primming is very seductive. Hair touching, and watch for her hair touching. This is how you entice her to desire you. This is your toolbox, your micro behaviors. So the process: gain her interest. Somehow you've got to, or gain her attention first. You have to first gain her attention. Like, she has to notice you. That you can do that. You might have to use. Yeah, sometimes in order just to get her attention, you've got to. Well, you got to do something. So how do you want to gain her attention, right? Sometimes you just turn your back completely on her. It's a move I use I use a bit, you know. I'll just put my back towards her, give her completely cold, look somewhere else, start moving a little bit to get people's attention. And now she becomes, when the entire environment is paying attention to you, for her not to look at you, she becomes the odd one out. So you've now created the situation where she has to notice you, or else she's a weirdo, right? So she feels that shit. See what I mean? But it's also very sexy when you can do that. When you can manipulate the environment, and it's easy to do. You turn your back towards her, and you begin to move. Everybody notices what's moving. All of a sudden, in order for her to ignore you, she's got to fucking. She has to notice you. You know what I mean? It would be weird if she didn't notice you. Or you could begin talking to somebody and your voice is loud, leading, and strong and powerful. You're just like, or, you know what I mean? You might just start talking to people, being friendly around, you know, with the people around you. Anything to do to show that it's going to gain her interest, still be like normal, kind of. Or gain the interest of gain everybody's attention. So right away you begin to work on the crowd. If you can get the crowd feeling positively towards you, now you've got her feeling positive. She will feel positive, you know what I mean? You are what's sexy in the environment, right? So she's going to be interested in everything, in whatever the environment is in. And those are tougher situations. I don't generally even go for those anymore as often. I used to. That was a technique I developed a long time ago. And it works. It works 100%. It is. Today, if she ain't giving me what I want, there's guaranteed, you know, it's like, fuck, I don't care. I don't have time to play with you. I don't even. But then it has the same effect. Because it's already in my fucking sub communications that I don't care. There's 99.99% chance that I'm not going to fuck you and I'm never going to see you again, and that I'll never have a conversation with you. Right? Like, I don't care enough to make you want to, usually. Because I know the next one is going to be interested in me. Like, so, you want to get her attention, you want to gain her interest, you want her to be at least somewhat interested in you, at least like, who's this guy, right? Have some kind of, you have to entice some kind of response of curiosity or of wanting to know more, right? That is some kind of an impulse, right? This is also, you can call it flipping the script. So, what's a normal seduction, a normal dating? What's it like for the average guy to date a woman, to the process of a courtship that the average guy goes through, right? It's like talking to her, I don't know. So what you want, but it's usually him putting in all the effort. So what you want to do is you flip the script to get her chasing you. You get her putting in the effort. You get her trying to make it happen. And you are more of like gauging whether or not you even want her, whether or not she's even, or whatever. But you're flipping, to flip the script, you're getting her to be the one to invest. So you're flipping the script as in who's investing more in the interaction. She always has to be investing more than you, right? In the very beginning, you've got to kind of get her interested, right? Like, let's be real. You're a man, she's a woman. Everywhere she goes, every guy's like looking at her, interested in her. She's got weird motherfuckers coming up all the time that she has to reject. And she doesn't know that you're not another fucking weird motherfucker that she's going to have to just reject, right? You haven't gained enough interest. She doesn't feel enough interest in you to want to chase you. So she's not going to, right? You have to change that. The earlier you change that in the interaction, the earlier she views you as somebody that she chases, right? So all humans are basically automatic processes. And so the minute, as soon as you become the person that she desires in her mind, now you become she associates you with the activity of chasing, or of trying to get, or whatever. Now you have now you have like you know what I mean? Now you've that forms the image of you she has in her mind. That also forms her version of who she is in relation to you as well. We all have different versions. So you are a different person with your mother than you are with your best friend. Same as every person that you meet. The relationship, you are a different version of you for every single person that you interact with. So what you want to do is, this is the theory of the onion theory, the onion mind versions. But what you want is, you now need to be, because you'll do things, to say, with your dog that you wouldn't do with, your neighbor. All right, you might walk up, pet your dog, and put your face in his fur and everything else. There's different sets of responses that are appropriate for you with your dog than with your neighbor, or with your boss and your best buddy, since you're in grade 6 or whatever, right? A lifelong friend. So what you do is you train her to build the image of you, to build the version of herself that you want her to be, type of thing. It's strange that human beings are, that it's this easy to manipulate a human being, and it is, but it also seems strange that this is, they desire power, right? And any power you can demonstrate over her, demonstrating that you have power over her, which, if you can get her to put on a collar, that's a certain bit of power. If you can have her serving your supper every night, or, calling you master, whatever. These are, this is, if she's calling you master, you're very different in her mind to other men, right? So she's got this version of herself, and she enjoys experiencing the version as well. So you create versions of yourself. We all do it, and it's a mixture of who is she, what does she desire. So what you're looking for when you're interacting with a woman is, what version does she want to be? Right? Who does she want to be? What kind of relationship does she want to have with somebody? And you want to find somebody who wants to be the person that you're looking for. You understand? Like, she's aroused by the same type of things that you're aroused by. And that what arouses you is also, say a master and a slave relationship. She's aroused. She enjoys being submissive, let's say. She enjoys the submissive role. You enjoy being masculine, let's say. And this is like just what you enjoy, what you've learned to enjoy. And the version that she creates of herself is submissive, and she enjoys that version when she's with you. Then you have a good seduction. So these are things that that you need to look for in her sub-communications, right? Does she have a willingness to serve you? Does she have a willingness to try to impress you? Does she act like, the little girl, or the lost little girl with her daddy type of thing? What is kind of how is she viewing you? And is this what you're looking for, right? She has to desire you more than you desire her. Or else you don't have control of the relationship. right? The one who desires the other one less is the one who's, or the one who's less affected by the other person, and who would be less affected by a separation or time apart, is the person who is in more control of the relationship than the other. Women's secrets. How's it going? Ice to iceberg. Right? This is a saying pimps have called ice to iceberg. What this refers to is hot and cold. When you demonstrate coldness to somebody, they'll try to compensate they'll try to compensate in balance by adding their own warmth, usually. So if she's got any interest in you whatsoever, just turning your back on her momentarily is gonna give her some coldness, and she'll begin to give more warmth in order to try to get you to give more warmth back, right? So ice to iceberg is the ability to go cold on a bitch, as pimps would say. And that coldness, if she's desiring more from you, she will warm up. It's an impulse, imposition, a compulsion. So you're trying to compel her to want to warm things up by adding her own warmth to the interaction. Right? Now this goes back and forth, hot and cold. So you can think of it as a balance that's happening, and the interaction's got to stay warm. So when you give too much warmth, she's going to automatically just start giving cold, right? Your behaviors can also, if you've ever noticed when you're like, oh baby, you're so beautiful, and you're chasing, that she begins to go colder. It's a natural thing, right? We're always seeking this balance. You want her to be on the side of wanting from you, right? Of wanting your warmth, and you giving that warmth, right? You give that warmth, and but you never give so much warmth that she doesn't want it anymore. It's got to always remain valuable. So it's a gradient. You can think of warmth and heat as a gradient. And when it's too hot in a house, say, if it's middle of winter time and it's nice and warm inside your house, that's good. But if it's so fucking boiling that it's uncomfortable, well, that's not good. So hot and cold is a very good metaphor for an interaction, and the house being a metaphor, or the house and the environment surrounding you is the metaphor for where you want it to be. And if you're giving more cold, she's got to give more warmth in order for the house to be a good temperature, right? A nice temperature, a pleasant temperature. And so if you're giving too much hot, she's going to start giving cold. So if you want her to be cold towards you, you can just, be overbearing with your warmth. It's back and forth. You play with this, and this is really, the hot and cold is really where seduction happens. We value what is unattainable. So things that we want, things that are slightly unattainable, but we think we can get them, like something that's unattainable right now, but later on, there's a chance of getting it. Things like that. Goals. So if you can become a goal to her, let's say, if in her mind, if you can become a goal, something she's working towards, now you're in the best position. And how do we do that? Through standards. Okay, we do that by having our own standards. Why do we have standards? They demonstrate that you're looking for value. Generally, a person who has a lot of choices is going to have a lot of value. So when you show that you have standards in women, there's something she has to meet. There's a criteria she has to meet in order to be interacting with you. And it's communicated through your sub communications. Everything, the words behind what you say, the way you talk, the way you behave, all these, your sub communications are all stemming from, just having standards. They should all communicate that you have standards. Your standards should be just, what are your standards, your bare minimum? What, you should think about it, decide, like, what kind of a woman do I want? Because you'll get what you'll accept. You will. You'll tend to get what the minimum is that you're willing to accept. What is it exactly that you're looking for in a woman? And what are you willing to accept? And what are you not willing to accept? Disrespect. Are you willing to be disrespected by a woman or talked down to by her? Right? If you're not willing to accept that, you don't always... See, women will try to they'll always be testing for their boundaries and their limits with you. They're always trying to see who you are. Just because she might bend a standard, like, she might, kind of disrespect you, you have to correct her in order to show her where the lines are. She's going to be looking at what you do, right? What behaviors. In order to learn who you are. That's how women have been able to learn how to trust men. Like throughout history, they've needed men in order to survive, to gather resources. But they also needed to know who the fuck you were, so they knew how to act and adjust themselves in relation to you. And this kind of hacks into all that. Effect. The effect that your standards should have is she should meet your standards. Like, not... If she hasn't broken your standards, she should know that she's somewhat, or at least she's still considered, right? Because you're only getting to know somebody. But to be getting to know somebody on an equal footing to where she's trying to get to know you, you have to have standards, because she's going to have standards. If she's physically attractive, there's a minimum that she's willing to put up with a man, right? There are some women who have almost no standards, and they'll allow themselves to be beaten up in an abusive relationship with an overbearing man. But, she might decide that he should be, not fat or something, right? We all have some kind of standards. Your standards are going to determine, who it is. 16 seconds remaining. Willingness to walk away. Be willing to walk away from a woman. That's